Hello friends and welcome back to Generation Pixel, and if it's your first time to the channel, well, thank you for popping along and you're in for a treat because it's Thursday and that can mean only one thing, that's right, it's another episode in the A to ZX of the Spectrum. So if you want to see some juicy 8-bit graphics, well, this is the place to be, so just hold on until after the titles. Now you can't talk about ZX Spectrum games without talking about platformers. So many different platformers of so many different styles, but A&F Software's Chuckie Egg from 1983 was definitely one of the big hitters of the time. And rather than trying to put together some sort of port of an arcade game, what they managed to do here was take the essence of Donkey Kong and make a game of their own. And as basic as it looks, well, you've really got to play it just to truly understand how tight the controls were and just how well they managed to program the physics of this small game to make it into one of the must-have titles of the day. And Chuckie Egg might not be the best of the ZX Spectrum platformers, but it's certainly up there and definitely in my top 3 of ZX Spectrum games. Now, from one game that wasn't an arcade port but was trying to emulate arcade games to a port of an arcade game, and this is sometimes and very often where the ZX Spectrum and many of the 8-bit microcomputers fell down. You see, back in the 80s we really wanted to be playing the arcade games at home, so when the developers from all the different software houses did manage to get the rights to an arcade game and port it to an 8-bit micro, well, it never really worked out quite the way we were hoping. And unfortunately for Ocean Software in 1988, Chase HQ was a great example of, well, games that you just couldn't port successfully to the 8-bit microcomputers of the time. Don't get me wrong, we were all thrilled to have a copy of Chase HQ, and we played it as best as we could, but at the end of the day, it wasn't a patch in the arcade versions, and it was merely a stopgap until we could either get to the arcades or maybe just get a better game. Well, if 8-bit microcomputers and arcade machines were big in the 80s, well, there was another big thing in the 80s, and that was action heroes. And in 1986, Ocean Software released Cobra, a frustratingly hard platforming game based on the film of the same name, headlined by none other than Sylvester Stallone in the iconic role of Marion Cobretti. Now, this game isn't for the faint of heart because it's not easy at all. There's not many action games out there where your first weapon of choice is to use your head. That's correct, you had to headbutt your enemies at the start until you could collect power-ups in order to gain a weapon, whether that be a knife to throw or a gun to shoot. But 9 out of 10 times, you basically had to run about the levels, jumping over multiple enemies and having to headbutt your way through each and every wave. Now don't get me wrong, although the game was extremely tough, it was also great fun. And with that action hero tie-in, well, it was another must-have game back in the 80s. The penultimate game on this list, well, it was a game released in 1987 by Epix, and it was a game that was ported onto just about every system I can imagine. And that, of course, is California Games. Now, I'll be frankly honest and straight to the point. I'm not a big sports games fan, but California Games was a game that I truly wanted to like. You see, there were plenty of Olympic type sport event games on the 8-bit micros and many machines after that, and each and every one of them I truly did enjoy, but California Games, for some reason, well, they just couldn't get the balance of gameplay and fun just right for me. And to be frankly honest, I don't think I've played a version of the game where I've managed to make any sort of real progress, the type of progress that you need just to drag you into a game and keep you in a game. Now, last up is a marvellous little game released by Ultimate Play the Game in 1983, and that game is Cookie. And what is Cookie, I hear you ask? Well, it's quite simply a cooking based shoot 'em up. As you can see from the gameplay, your character is Charlie the chef, and what he has to do is bake a cake. And to bake a cake, he has to shoot bags of flour at all the ingredients to get them into the bowl. Now of course it's not quite as simple as this. Your ingredients act as your enemy sprites in this game, and they will attack you from all corners. But not only that, you have a very familiar face popping out of the trash cans at the bottom. Looks a bit grouchy to me, and he's going to throw items of garbage at you while you're trying to bake your cake. And if you manage to shoot one of these pieces of garbage into your bowl, well, the amount of ingredient you need goes up, so you have to fire more bags of flour at more of the ingredients to get them into the bowl just to progress to the next level. And without a doubt, Cookie is one of the games on this list that I can heartily recommend to anyone who wants to try their hand at 8-bit micro games. So there you have it folks, yet another sublime collection of 8-bit masterpieces from the ZX Spectrum. And yes, I know people like Paul from Retrobait will tell you that you can play them on the Commodore 64, but we'll just leave it to the professionals at Sinclair to do the real gaming. Anyway, enough of the banter. If you've enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up, because well, it makes a great deal of difference to the channel. And if you haven't already subscribed, well, that button is there and waiting for you anytime. But more importantly, comment this video or any of my other videos. If there's something that you've seen that you want to talk about, then hit me up in the comments. I'll be happy to get back to you. And until next time, well, you could watch some of this awesome chap over here. But from me, cheerio!